Good morning, everybody. This is, well, you can see up here, my picks for the 9:30 game. The Washington Commanders and the Miami Dolphins are playing in Madrid, which is pretty fire, I'm not going to lie. Not happy that I have to be up this early to do fantasy football start-sit questions, but hey, if you got any of those, if you have anybody you're on the fence about, drop your comments down below, and I'll give you the best start-sit info I can give. Right now, I am on Twitter. I am on a few different websites trying to refresh, trying to see what's the deal with some of these players that are questionable on their way, are they playing, are they not playing? Right now, as I'm reading, Ian Rappaport 8 hours ago said Drake London is expected to play despite the questionable tags. So that is good news for anyone that's playing a Woody Marks this week. He is somebody in my must start that way. He is a must start this week. They've been reporting that they're going to give him the ball more, which is very exciting news. And if you have Keon Coleman, I would probably just drop him. He has been announced today to be a healthy scratch from the Bills-Bucks game. I think it's a little odd that their starting tight end, one of their best receivers, is out for this game, right? And they decided, let's not play Keon Coleman. I'm not sure how they figure that one out, to be honest. But again, if you have any fantasy football start-sit questions of your own, now is the time to ask. Do not be shy. I'm going to pull up the YouTube chat. Chat, how we looking? Okay, nobody's in the chat. We good. I know my mic is on and it's working because I didn't fumble it like the last time I went live. Ooh-wee, that was bad. That was bad. But, yeah, if you want to tail the bets, we have Jalen Waddle over 70 yards. Tua for 2 touchdowns. Tua for 2. And HN anytime. That's plus 260 on the apps. Gamble responsibly. I am not sponsored by any of these betting platforms. I am not going to tell you how to spend your hard-earned money. But I will say, let me go this way. I want to be right in the middle of this. I will say, I think this is going to be a Dolphins explosion offense type of game. This Washington Commanders secondary is very bad, and we've seen them get torched over the last few weeks. We've actually seen quarterbacks. We talked about this in my video that dropped yesterday. If you didn't see that, maybe you could go check it out after the live stream is over and done with. However, this Washington defense, not even the secondary, gives up an absurd amount of points to the fantasy quarterbacks. I think it's almost 19 points a game to the quarterbacks. So let's take Tua aside. Let's put that in a vacuum. Let's call it what it is. This is a defense that anybody can shred. So I'm going to believe that Tua can shred them, right? Other must-start players. Sorry. Let me get a little sippy of the energy drink. But J.J. McCarthy also going up against a really fantasy-friendly defense this weekend. I know nobody wants to play 9, but just consider playing 9 this week. The Bears give up the 4th most fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. This is a divisional game. This is, ironically, one of the only games we saw J.J. McCarthy show life in the second half and look like a good quarterback in the NFL. So for those reasons, I expect J.J. McCarthy to put out a pretty solid fantasy performance. But let's keep going down the list of must-start players. Khalil Shakir. We talked about Keon Coleman being a healthy scratch in this game. What does that mean for the Buffalo Bills and their offense? They may rely on James Cook even more than they already do. But that... But that seems just like a lazy excuse to me. I mean, we all already know that they're going to give the ball to James Cook and give the ball to James Cook a ton. So where does that leave us with the pass-catching options? Because Keon Coleman's a healthy scratch. Dalton Kincaid is not playing in this game. Are we going to start Dawson Knox? I'm going to say we look towards Khalil Shakir to have a really solid performance this weekend. And if you could take advantage of the Dallas Cowboys defense, I would highly, highly, highly consider starting Trey Tucker against the Cowboys. Why? Because everybody goes off against the Cowboys. This is nothing new. Start Purdy or Caleb. I'm going to say... Hold on. I want to get the chat on my computer. Okay, this is... Give me a sec. I'm sorry, Guitar Maniac. But Purdy or Caleb, Normally, I'm afraid to play guys that are in a situation where it's their first game back. But against the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to give the slight edge to Brock Purdy over Caleb. However, Caleb has the rushing upside. Caleb is that fourth quarter guy. So I don't think you could really go wrong with playing either one of these, but slightly favor Brock Purdy over Caleb. And for T-Mac, Parker Washington, or Tez Johnson, I think you have to start T-Mac over them. I think talent just wins out at the end of the day. I would say it doesn't really affect too much. I would try to not play Parker Washington as much as possible. I understand that this is a situation where he's probably going to be the number one wide receiver if Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't play. But the Chargers defense is very scary. And for those reasons, I probably would not advise. Yeah, and Ted's playing the Falcons. That's also a scary defense. You can play Tez over T-Mac. I probably wouldn't play Parker Washington. If there was one guy I liked significantly less than the others, I'm going to go ahead and say that I like Parker Washington the least. And I would say if you're hunting for the better matchup, you want to swing for a home run, Tez Johnson is a solid play. He's been very hot over the last few weeks. If you know, you know. It's probably great that you have him on your team. I would lean slightly Tez Johnson, but T-Mac is a stud in his own right. And it's tough to say sit him, but he is playing the Falcons, and that's a tough defense. I'm going to go back to Twitter, see if I can find any kind of information on who's playing, who's not. Bradley Chubb is active in this one. Let's see if there's any other inactives or actives that I should know about at this time. We're going to go through the list. CJ Stroud is out. Definitely. I mean, I was somebody that wasn't too crazy about T-Mac in the offseason. I'll be honest, I was a little wrong about that to an extent. I mean, it's not like if you drafted him in the 4th, 5th round, it's paying off massively for you right now. But the end of the season schedule is really where you want to take advantage of Tet. And that's kind of where I've turned the page in the corner of, well, we know for a fact that this low touchdown production is probably not sustainable. Even though Bryce Young is a quarterback that doesn't throw for a lot of touchdowns, we still expect this guy to have more than just 1 or 2 touchdowns this year, and preferably score a touchdown in a game that's not against the Dallas Cowboys. However, a problem with going ahead and playing Tez Johnson, if you look at the weather in Buffalo, it's not ideal for throwing the football. This is kind of going to be a gross weather game. So that's why I'm kind of iffy on whether you should go ahead and play T-Mac in a bad matchup, or do you say, I'm going to play the good matchup, hope for the best. Maybe the game script isn't in your favor because it's the Buffalo Bills and they can just beat anybody on any given Sunday. Or maybe the weather, the rain, whatever's going on up there is just too much to handle. They're not going to throw the ball. I've already been screwed out of a Monday Night Football game, the Bears and the Commanders one, where it was just a messy weather game, and yeah. So I lost out because of Rome Odunze, and they wouldn't throw the ball in that Bears game because obviously it just didn't make sense to throw it. So keep that in mind if you have Tez Johnson today. You may get screwed over by the weather, but you kind of just have to play your cards. Do I think Gadsden's going to be limited? I'm going to say no. It's not like he's carrying a questionable tag into this game on Sunday, right? So if I know it's a quad bruise, it's day-to-day, it is, it's a bone bruise. They're taking it day by day. If this was something they were calling week to week, I would say maybe this is something that can hinder Oronde Gadsden. But being that it's a day-to-day injury, he doesn't carry an injury designation into this game. I would assume, right, reading the tea leaves and the writing on the wall, because I'm not in the room with the LA Chargers when they practice, but I would assume that Gadsden is good to go. It wasn't the 0 point game. That was another disaster. But there was a Monday night game. I'm trying to see if I can remember. Let me go to the Bears' schedule here real quick. I think the more I think about it, I kind of think T-Mac is a safer play this week. But if you're shooting for the upside, you're 5-5. If you're projected to lose, maybe go ahead and play Tez Johnson. But otherwise, if you're just looking for some reliable points, I would say Ted McMillan. You know he's going to get the targets. You know this could be a game where they're potentially down in, so I like those. But it was actually Guitar Maniac. It was week 6. They played in Washington, and Roma Dunze had 2 catches for 32 yards to start the game. Looked phenomenal, 5 targets. But it was midway through the third quarter. Never saw the ball again. They really didn't even want to pass because the weather just didn't permit for that. Worried about Tyler Loop. Let's see what the weather calls for in Cleveland. While I'm checking for that, let me just make sure that the game is in Cleveland and not Baltimore because I am human. I forget these things. The game is in Cleveland. We're probably going to have 20-mile-an-hour winds in this one. I would look for another kicker, honestly. I wouldn't even bother. Eber, my guy. Thank you for stopping by. Listen, Jacoby's my guy. You know that. I know he's not good, but he's like a mascot for my team. He's a rally cry, a warrior. If you could predict the Miami Dolphins game perfectly against the Commanders, tell me the final score. Tell me 2 guys that are going to score a touchdown, Eber. And we'll work out a trade for Jacoby Myers. I'll give you a treat. If you could get the final score, you don't even have to do the touchdowns. If you can get final score, I got you. I know he's good, but the problem is he's only good because Brian Thomas is iffy with his injury. So that's why it's pain. That's why Jacoby Myers looks good right now. But once Brian Thomas steps back on that field, you and I both know for damn sure that this is Brian Thomas Jr.'s team. I know he's having a bad season, but you know how it's going to be. You know when shit hits the fan who's going to actually rise to the top. You know what I'm saying? Let me check if there's any other key inactives that I don't know about. Any kicker suggestions? Oh my goodness. You are speaking my language right now. There is nothing that gets the brain going more than kicker and defense talk. I love all of it. I absolutely do. You're deciding between Will Lutz, Jake Elliott, Prater, and Mevis. Let's take a look at this. Let's see where we're at here. If you can't get I really don't like Will Lutz and Harrison Mevis in this one, if I got to be honest. Because Jake Elliott's going to be outside too, but it's good weather. I would consider Jake Elliott. Matt Prater. Let's go Matt Prater. Good morning, brother. How you doing today? If you have any start-sit questions of your own, now is the time to ask. Do not be shy. I'm here till kickoff starts, so feel free to hang out, kick it with the crew. Outlier Militia, help our brothers out in the chat. And sisters. I saw there was a girl in here. Outlier brothers and sisters, Outlier Militia family. Help our friends out in this feed. Greg Dulcich touchdown. Malik touchdown. 24-17. Miami. I like that. I like that pick. You're honest. You don't think the Dolphins are going to score too much. I think the Dolphins are going to go for 30 points today, honestly. I think Jalen Waddle is going to shred, right? Because he's Jalen Waddle. I think Devon Achane is the fastest player on the field. That's scary, right? And 2 is playing in 50-degree weather. I mean, what is not to love about that? No, it's not sunny 70 degrees in Miami, but I'm sure if they went to DC today, it'd be windy, it'd be a little nasty. You wouldn't get the same Tua Tagovailoa performance. So I like Tua today. I think Tua's going to ball. But let's talk nitty-gritty stuff. Who's got kicker and defense questions? Who's looking for the extra sauce, the juice to put you over the top? Matt Prater, a good kicker option. The weather may permit some issues, but you're not going to play Tyler Loop in a 20-mile-an-hour wind tunnel. That's for sure. We got 3 start sits. Let's get it, King. I got you right now. Who we looking at? We looking at Baker or Flacco? Baker or Flacco? Let's start with that. I feel that as if you have to play Flacco. This is a team that he knows very well. This is a defense that is very capable of being shredded. And Baker Mayfield in Buffalo, the weather may not permit a lot of running, and Buffalo is pretty good at containing quarterbacks. I know that wasn't the case. Patrick Mahomes, he kind of struggled. I was going to say he had a solid game, but they were getting after it. So I'm not going to say he didn't have a tough time back there. But, yeah, Buffalo is pretty tough on quarterbacks. I would say Joe Flacco significantly over Baker. Kelsey full PPR or Trey Tucker? This is tough. Anytime you throw a tight end in the mix, that's when things get interesting. So how are we feeling about Travis Kelsey over Trey Tucker? I think that's valid. I think you can play Travis Kelsey over Trey Tucker. I really want Trey Tucker to be a must start, but a lot of you guys have depth on your teams. A lot of you guys have a lot of quality players, which makes it harder to start a guy like Trey Tucker. But hey, that means you guys have a good problem to have. Yeah, like Brock Bowers is your starting tight end. That's a good problem to have, my friend. You're chilling. Your feet up, kicking up in the sand. You're like, it don't matter. I got 2 stud tight ends. That's how you're moving. I see you. Great questions. Thank you for stopping by. And Chicago or Kansas City defense. I don't want to forget that. I know you asked 3 questions. Chicago or Kansas City? Chicago or Kansas City? How we feeling? I'm going to say Chicago. We're going to go Chicago defense. Baker or Stafford today? Yeah, you're just going to play Stafford. We'll make that very easy for you. Matt Stafford it is. Matt Stafford is playing in a dome, so he doesn't have to worry about weather, right? Baker Mayfield is going to be in some nasty weather today in Buffalo. These are things that we have to consider when we set our lineup, right? These are things that maybe we don't think about on Friday and Saturday, but when it comes down to Sunday, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty and we actually have to make real logical decisions, we have to consider everything. We have to consider weather. We have to consider injuries. We have to consider time of day that's being played. All of these things matter. I think you did a good thing by adding Matt Prater. To be honest, I know there are a lot of rankings and sites that are very high on Tyler Loop, so I've been riding that Tyler Loop train as well. There are weeks where he's got it. There are weeks where he really don't got it. And I feel that if you're going to grab a kicker, because I'm going to be honest, kickers are replaceable. I know some people are out there, they love to draft their Brandon Aubrey and say, I got Brandon Aubrey, the best kicker. But listen, any of these guys can drop 10, 11, 12 points on any given Sunday. You just have to know who to add, right? Matt Prater the last couple weeks has not been that 10-point guy, but he's hit 10 points or more in 3 games already this season. He's hit at least 7 points in 6 of those games. So I'm just going to roll the dice and say I'm going to lean on consistency over trying to get the best kicker in the league. I'm just going to keep adding and dropping. I don't care. Flex help. Let's do it. Jerry Jeudy, Kareem Hunt, Demercado if Bam is out. I think Bam is going to play. And I think for right now, your decision's going to have to come down to, it's half PPR, right? So let's take a look at what the stats say for half PPR, right? I think this decision comes down to, are we playing Michael Wilson or Trey Tucker? I'm not that interested in Jerry Jeudy this week. I know it's a good matchup. I think that's really more of a long shot. Kareem Hunt is not a bad play, but you're really just banking on a touchdown or you're screwed. You know what I'm saying? There's no pass catching upside. There's no real threat for him to get yards on the ground. I think you need to hit a home run and start Trey Tucker. We know the blueprint is there, right? Where if you start a player against the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to have a monster day. If we believe that that is the case, then we have to make sure we're doing everything we can to get Trey Tucker in our lineups. There's a reason why I didn't put Michael Wilson's name here, right? There's a reason for that. It's because you got to play whoever's playing the Dallas Cowboys. And it seems like you're in a great position to start Trey Tucker, and I would do it confidently. I would throw him out there, eyes closed, all is good. It's a little risky because obviously we don't know if Bam Knight is playing or not, which would make Imari Demercado even better. But regardless of the fact, you have that in Trey Tucker. That is a great play. 18 PPR. Okay. So we're going to have a interesting start-sit debate here because you're going to have a lot of good players on your team. 2 flex. I'm assuming that's Woody Marks and not Max. So Woody Marks, George Pickens, Kamani Vidal, Khalil Shakir, Rashid Shaheed. Let's start with Rashid Shaheed is not being started in this group. Quentin Johnston or Jones. I'm going to need some help. I don't know who Jones is off the top of my head. Please forgive me. I know Julio Jones retired years ago. But regardless of the fact, I think George Pickens is a must start. So we got that out of the way. I think you have to play Woody Marks. This is somebody that they have announced is going to get a bulk of the carries today. They're going to feed Woody Marks. You got to put him in your lineup. That's as comforting as it is. I mean, they talked this week about how Travion Henderson's going to get this big load AO, but it paid off. He took a bulk of those carries for the Patriots, and if they're saying that Woody Marks is going to do that, I think you have to start him. He's already got the pass catching upside. Vidal or Harvey today in the flex? Feel like Harvey is the ceiling play. I think you have to be a little safe and go with Kamani Vidal. There's a reason why I put RJ Harvey here as a must-sit. This defense does not help anybody out in the run game. It is a tough matchup. But let's keep going. 12-team, 1 flex. You're 5-5. Okay. Trade Demercado, Swift, Gadsden for Tyler Warren and Hampton. Yeah, I would do that. As long as you don't need a tight end, as long as you can make it work at the tight end position, I'm always down to trade a tight end for a running back. We all know how important the running back position is. Aaron Jones. Oh, that changes a lot. We're going to go... Sorry, Sport Dog. Let's go Aaron Jones and George Pickens. I really like Woody Marks. I would say do whatever you can to get him in your lineup. If you want to play Woody Marks over George Pickens, I can't tell you to do that. Woody Marks has to be sat because I think Aaron Jones is you could play Woody over Jones. I would still keep it at Woody Marks, George Pickens. Those are the 2 that I like. Vidal, he's got a solid matchup. Yeah, no, definitely. I am big on Khalil Shakir today. I think it's not even about Keon Coleman. It's really more about who is going to step up in this room without Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid was the guy. If you were watching, you're looking at the stats. Dalton Kincaid is a guy that was getting a ton of work. Dalton Kincaid, it was not statistically the number 1 wide receiver, but if you watch the games, that is the go-to target for Josh Allen. And we've seen Khalil Shakir be a must-target player. or the number one target player in the Buffalo Bills offense. So for those reasons, I really like Khalil Shakir this week. Anyone that could get Amari and Hampton via trade, I think you got to do that. I think Amari and Hampton is a stud. Listen, he hasn't played since week 5, right? Week 5. He got hurt in that game. He's the 36th best running back. He dropped 3.5 points week 1, and he's the 36th best running back. And he hasn't played half the year. Like, that is just ridiculous. Parker Washington versus Xavier Worthy. Yeesh. What are we doing here? I can't confidently say in any situation that I want to be starting Xavier Worthy, right? Because we just haven't seen that. So I'm going to have to say Parker Washington with all of the targets that should go his way, assuming Brian Thomas doesn't play. Of course, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for asking your fantasy football questions. I love to help everybody out. I love to, give some advice. Talk fantasy football with the guys. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about here. That's what it's all about. I would say Parker Washington over trying to play Xavier Worthy over Denver. If you could, I would say don't touch any wide receiver in this game. Obviously, Rashee Rice is the exception to that. We have to play him no matter what, right? Probably a top 5 to 10 play this week at the wide receiver position. But if you're looking at, Kelsey is out of this as well because he's Kelsey. But like Troy Franklin, Cortland Sutton, Xavier Worthy, I would prefer leaving these guys on the bench this week. That's just me. Let's see. Do we have any updates on any key players being in or out today? Drake London expected to play. We talked about this. This is great news. No word on Devontae Adams, but that kind of makes sense because I don't think they're playing until 4 o'clock anyway, so I don't think we're going to see an update for that while I'm on live. That'll probably take into effect at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, maybe even later than that. However, let's see if there are any key inactives that I did not mention so far today. Let's go down the list. Jackson Dart is out. We knew this. Anyone else that I'm missing that could be significantly notable? No, everything looks pretty much up to par. We still have questionable. We actually have a Joe Burrow questionable. That's interesting. That is interesting. No, he's obviously not playing, but he's off the IR. They've opened the 21-day window. Still waiting to hear on whether Quentin Johnston's going to play. Still waiting on whether Bam Knight is going to play. Definitely still waiting for a confirmation on Drake London, but it all seems like he is going to play. Excuse me. We still don't know if Dolphins will be with or without Dwayne Eskridge. Not that anybody was going to play him anyway. And Matthew Golden we're still waiting on for a report if he's in or out. So that'll be interesting. Trying to see, do we see anything out of the ordinary? Saw Spears trending on Twitter, but it was not Tajay Spears, so that's good news, I guess. Bam Knight is expected to play according to Adam Schefter, so there goes the dream of playing Amari Demercado. Devontae Adams is expected to play, so if you have him in your lineups, feel good, leave him in there. Calvin Ridley is expected to play even though he's missed the last 3 games. And apparently Drake London got sick after the trip to Berlin. That's why he's dealing with an illness. Nevertheless, he should be expected to play. This is good news. Starting K9 unless you can convince me to start Aaron Jones. Well, let me convince you to start Aaron Jones then, because that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to do, Zach. So allow me to dive in and explain why you should be playing Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is going up against a defense in the Chicago Bears that is very fantasy friendly. They actually give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So that's good. If you want to play Kenneth Walker over him, might I remind you that the Rams give up the second fewest fantasy points allowed to running backs. And we don't even know if Zach Charbonnet or Ken Walker is going to get that touchdown for you. So I really think you need to be starting Aaron Jones, or at least considering otherwise, because Aaron Jones has the matchup. Aaron Jones has the pass-catching ability if you're in a PPR league. Ken Walker, unfortunately, is in a split backfield, as much as I hate to say it, because why is he even in a split backfield? I don't know. The guy is him, as far as I can see. But hey, what do I know? All I know is that Aaron Jones is going up against a very fantasy-friendly defense against the Chicago Bears. They're probably going to lean on the run in this game. J.J. McCarthy has been up and down. Like I said, I think he's going to have a good game today. But if he doesn't, they're going to have to rely on Aaron Jones even more. This is a game where Minnesota may even be favored at home to win the game. Game script would lead you to believe that they're going to run the ball more. If you're in this LA Rams Seattle game, let's be honest, I don't know if you're really going to be up against the Rams offense that just kills time of possession, is moving the ball down the field with the passing game at an almost unheard of rate, where Matthew Stafford, hasn't thrown a pick in the last 6 games or something like that. I would probably look to play Aaron Jones over him. My rankings have Aaron Jones significantly higher than Kenneth Walker. So these are all things to just keep in mind. I really like Aaron Jones today. He probably should have been on the must start, but I felt like it was a little bit of a normie kind of take. I wouldn't be so worried about Aaron Jones getting 9 carries a game. This is a guy that still gets targeted out of the backfield. He had 6 targets last week. Since he's come back from injury, he's averaging 4 targets a game. So you're getting passes out of the backfield to go with those 8 carries, 9 carries, whatever it may be. I wouldn't worry so much about that. This is going to be a game script, unlike the other games, mind you, where they played some tough offenses. You played the Chargers, you played the Lions, you played the Ravens. These are all offenses that are ideally supposed to keep the Vikings off the field. You're going up against the Chicago Bears that can't keep anybody off the field. Let's be honest. They've been in shootouts all year. Every game has come down to the fourth quarter. You're going to have Aaron Jones probably run the ball more than 9 times today. If I was a betting man, that's what I would bet. How do we feel about Green Bay wide receivers today versus the Winston-led Giants? Potential for a shootout, or is Jacobs going? So here's the thing. I'm really glad you asked this question, my friend, because here's what we need to understand about the Packers offense, right? This offense does not rely on any wide receivers to move the ball down the field. If this game is going to be a quote-unquote shootout, I think you're going to see a quote-unquote shootout because there are going to be factors like a special teams touchdown, a defensive touchdown, tons of turnovers from Jameis Winston. That would be the pathway for me to believe this is going to be a game where it'll be a shootout. Of course, we know Jameis Winston has the capability any given Sunday to throw 5 picks or throw 5 touchdowns. So I believe that if Jameis Winston plays a good game, right, mistake-free football, you're going to have the Packers running the football, controlling time of possession, limiting how many times Jameis Winston can get on the field and string together a quality drive. So I don't see a way where this is going to be a shootout. We also know that Jordan Love is not a guy who's going to throw for 4 touchdowns and 400 yards. So I'm not in the camp of believing that you got to be starting your Green Bay wide receivers against the Giants. I know the matchup says to do it, but we've seen enough Green Bay Packers games to know that they're going to run the ball. They're going to lean on Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is the locomotive that drives this offense. If you watch Monday Night Football, they came out 5 plays in a row. Four runs with Jacobs and a pass to Jacobs. They're not really looking to use any of their wide receivers, especially considering the fact that Tucker Kraft was their best receiving option and now they don't have him. If you have Christian Watson, I leave him on your bench. It's a home run play regardless. The Green Bay wide receivers, I'm not really interested in playing them in this one. I got to be honest. I don't see a way where the Giants get up 20 points on them and they have to throw the ball to get back in this game. They lean on time of possession. They're a slow-pace offense. That's just how they work. Bears or Rams defense? I love answering questions about kicker and defense. I love that. Bears or Rams? So, we expect the Bears to lose to Minnesota, right? That's kind of like what the betting line and what Vegas is telling us. The Rams are going to win, but they're playing a much better offense. I would feel a little bit better about playing the Bears defense. But, honestly, flip a coin. You got Bears with a good matchup, Rams with not a good matchup, yet they're an elite-style defense. I don't know if you could really go wrong with either one of them. I think this is a coin flip spot. You go off your gut, you go off your vibe. The vibes are telling me Sam Darnold's got to fall off eventually, right? No offense to Seahawks fans. I know Zach is in here. He's a Seahawks fan, probably. I could tell by his picture. I like Sam Darnold. I think eventually you're going to see a game where Sam Darnold isn't literally the best deep passer in the NFL. Like, that's going to happen once or twice. And why wouldn't it be against a defense where they're playing the Rams in LA? I could see this be a potential spot where they make a few mistakes and it is what it is. But the Bears, matchup-wise, have the better matchup. K9 or Worthy? Yeesh. Let's figure this one out for you, my friend. If you're in a PPR league, let's take a look. Let's take a look here. What do we like? What do we not like? In this scenario, we have a running back splitting touches, and we have Xavier Worthy. I'm going to say, in this spot, in this situation, Ken slightly. I like Ken slightly more than Xavier Worthy, but I don't feel great about it. I definitely don't feel great about that. I'm sorry, dude. I saw the green and the blue, and I was just like, oh, he's asking about Kenneth Walker. It must be a Seahawks fan. I'm sorry, dude. I saw too many Ken Walker. I saw Seahawk colors. That threw me off. I'm not going to lie. But I'm sorry, dude. That's what I get for assuming, right? That is what I get. Let's check Twitter one more time. Let's see what's going on. Adam Schefter tweeted about an hour ago, heading into today's NFC West showdown in LA, Seahawks quarterback has been sacked 10 times in 9 games this season, one more sack than the Rams had against him and the Vikings during their 2024 wildcard win. Last season, the Rams beat Darnold twice, including a season-ending loss that contributed to why Minnesota didn't re-sign him. So, let's keep in mind that Sean McVay and this Rams defense might have Lil Bro figured out. Oh, we have Tez Johnson. Hello. Whoa. Don't be throwing a bomb on me like that last second. I think you got to play Tez Johnson over all of them. I think Tez Johnson over K9. Yeah. I like Tez Johnson over K9. I think that's the move to make. That's the play you got to play. I honestly can't tell you to trust Ken Walker. I know we talked about it earlier that this would be a bad weather game, probably not ideal situations. However, Tez Johnson has been balling lately. So I like Tez. I think you got to go Tez over Kenneth Walker and Xavier Worthy. I feel like it's so hard to rank Ken Walker. Like, I am a Ken Walker fantasy owner myself. But I don't know where we stand with this guy. Could be a risky flex. Honestly, I just appreciate that you're in here, Pierce, and you're trying to help our brothers out in the chat. I think that's dope. I absolutely love that. We're a team. We're a family here, and we got to help each other out. That's what family does. So, do we like Greg Dortch more than Tez Johnson? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say we would prefer Michael Wilson slightly over Tez Johnson. But Tez Johnson is going to be operating as the number 2 behind Ibuka. Maybe you consider 3 if you consider Otten. Somebody asked about Kelsey Otten, and I forgot about them. Let me get back to that real quick. I like Kelsey over Otten. We'll just make that really quick. Buffalo gives up the least amount of fantasy points to tight ends. I like Kelsey more. Start 2. Dobbs, Sutton, Pearsall, Debo. Okay, I like this one. This is a fun one. If we got Romeo Dobbs, Courtland Sutton, let's start with Romeo Dobbs, got to be started. That's like, if you're going to play anybody, that's got to be the wide receiver you're starting. Deebo Samuel does not have the matchup, but you know what? Vibes, going off vibes here. Vibes are telling me, go ahead and play Deebo. He's the best player in that group, right? It's risky to want to play Pearsall because we don't know how many games he's going to play. But I kind of feel like vibes are telling me Pearsall over Sutton and Dobbs. I don't want to be playing Courtland Sutton today. That's just how I feel, truthfully. If you could avoid it, I definitely would. This is a player that, like, we can't rank him outside of, like, the top 30 of wide receivers because he's one of the better wide receivers. But this is a matchup that says, whoa, you're probably not going to get any production out of your wide receiver today. Vibes are telling me, go Debo, go Ricky Pearsall, but I can't be mad if you decide if Romeo Dobbs is going to play. Is Brian Thomas Jr. playing? I have no word on that yet, but there's nothing a nice little Google search can't do for us. Brian Thomas Jr. is not expected to play this week, according to Ian Rappaport. Not quite yet, is what they said. Not quite yet. So maybe next week for Brian Thomas. Maybe that means I got to get Jacoby Myers in my lineup, but the matchup tells you that it's not something you got to be jumping over the moon for. That's another thing that I'm considering here. It's interesting because I'm in a little bit of a bind myself. I'm kind of forced to play RJ Harvey, even though I have Jacoby Myers as an option. But I think just as a player in a situation, I'm going to get way more opportunities from an RJ Harvey than I am a Jacoby Myers. So that's why I'm going ahead and playing RJ Harvey. I know I'm not practicing what I preach over here, right? Is that the right way? Did I go that? Yep, I went the right way. I think even though he's a must-sit, I got to roll with it because I really don't have anybody that I trust to play more. But Brian Thomas is not expected to play, which is a bummer. And for that reason, we would upgrade Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers. But the problem is Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers are going up against a defense that gives up the 5th least fantasy points to wide receivers. So I don't love that matchup. That's why I had to go ahead and just roll out the guy, RJ Harvey. But I don't love that either. Back to Twitter. Let's see. Do we got any key inactives for this one? We got no Terry McLaurin, obviously. No Jaden Daniels today. That makes Deebo Samuel that much better to play. Still waiting on confirmation for guys like Bam Knight, Devontae Adams, Brian Thomas. But it seems like Brian Thomas is going to be the one that doesn't play out of this group. Full PPR. Thanks for stopping by, Andrew. We got Schultz, we got Otten, and we got Theo Johnson. So I personally, before I say who I like and who I don't like, I'm upgrading Theo Johnson in a Jameis Winston style offense. I think you're going to see more opportunities and a opportunity for Theo Johnson to be great. However, Dalton Schultz has been on a heater lately. That defense, that game script may not pose for a good game for him. So let's leave Dalton Schultz aside. And now we're going to decide between Cade Otton, who's going up against the Buffalo Bills defense that gives up the least fantasy points to tight ends, or Theo Johnson. Kind of like Theo Johnson a little bit more. I know Cade Otton has the consistency, has the track record to show you that he is that guy, but weather's going to be bad. The matchup is going to be bad. I think I'm just going to go with Theo Johnson. It's going to be 50 degrees at MetLife. Probably not going to have a factor of wind. I don't think the passing game is going to be hindered at all or compromised in this one. I think I like Theo Johnson. I like Theo Johnson in the red zone to get busy and score a touchdown for you. Let's hope those vibes are true. Let's keep that energy up, and hopefully that pays off for you, my friend. These are great questions. Keep them coming, guys. We got 45 minutes just about before kickoff. I'm trying to stay here and answer as many of your fantasy football questions as possible. Drop them down below. Let's get busy. Let's check our inactives. Still no news. Refreshing Twitter, because I got to keep you guys updated. That's just how it's going to be. Not expected to play Brian Thomas Jr. Expected to play Drake London, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Adams, Bam Knight. And obviously, you guys know, our IR players this week are J.K. Dobbins and Sam Laporta have been put on IR. Chargers or Ravens defense this week? Vibe is telling me Ravens. Sorry, I don't know why I said Raiders. Yeah, we're going to go Ravens defense. This is going to be a game with 20-mile-an-hour winds. The passing game is going to be limited. If they try to pass, the Ravens are going to shut it down. And if you play the Browns, that is the best matchup for your defense. So put all those things together. That's a recipe for a good week for your Ravens defense. I like the Chargers defense a lot. They're going to be in Jacksonville. That's also a good opportunity. But I think the Ravens have an even better opportunity against Dylan Gabriel and the Browns. But thank you for the question, Andrew. You dropped some great questions for us, and I appreciate that. Who knows? Maybe someone else at home is watching this, didn't want to type in the chat, didn't want to ask, and this information helped them as well. You never know. I'm just going to keep refreshing Twitter. Hey, I appreciate that, Pierce. Stay as long as you'd like. We just talking ball. We just a bunch of guys talking ball. You know what I mean? We having fun here. Okay. Interesting news. This happened last night, according to Rappaport. The Bills have brought back Gabe Davis, and he's going to make his debut. We all know how that goes. Gabe Davis could be in for a 2-touchdown, 150-yard day or not catch a single pass. So that's going to be real interesting. Joe Flacco is trending on Twitter. For nothing, I could really understand why. But yeah, he's trending on Twitter. That's interesting. Interesting stat I just came across. I don't know if this is true or not. QBs with the most passes dropped this season. Trevor Lawrence at 31. Bo Nix at 24. Justin Herbert, 18, Joe Flacco, 16, and Patrick Mahomes and Caleb are tied for 14. That's interesting. For someone that, maybe we don't love as much into Trevor Lawrence, we don't really know if he's that good. It's kind of interesting to see that all of his wide receivers drop passes left and right. Pick 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Let's get after it. Nico, T. Higgins, Kyron Williams, Emeka Egbuka, and Devontae Smith. Wow, this is quite the list, my friend. Let's unpack it. Let's unpack this. We got to be starting Nico Collins, right? Like, he's just turning up right now. This feels like Nico Collins is about to go crazy for us. I think Nico Collins and Kyron Williams are your must-starts. That's our 2. And now we need a flex. We need to flex between T. Higgins and Emeka Egbuka. T. Higgins or Emeka Egbuka. I'm going to say Emeka Egbuka slightly, but I don't feel good about sitting a guy in T. Higgins who has a phenomenal matchup, a quarterback that's going to get him the football. Let's check the weather in Pittsburgh, because if the weather is not permitting a passing day, You're gonna have some bad wind in the forecast. Okay. Let's check the weather in Buffalo now. I know the weather in Buffalo is shiesty today. if wind and weather is all considered equal like it is in this matchup, I'm going to favor Emeka Egbuka over T. Higgins. But it still just doesn't feel right for me to tell you to sit T. Higgins. But you got so many good guys, you just kind of have to. It is what it is. Johnston, Tet, and Pickens. Full PPR, need to. Brady, how you doing, brother? Great to have you here. Thanks for stopping by. Johnson, Tet, and Pickens. Johnston, I'm sorry. We're definitely going Pickens. Definitely going Pickens. And it really just comes down to, are we starting questionable Johnston or Tet McMillan? I think you have to go Tet McMillan. I don't know. It's kind of hard to make of what Quentin Johnston is in this offense with a healthy Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, Aronde Gadsden. Feels like he plays fourth fiddle to these guys. Let's get this little bot out of here. Can I moderate this somehow, some way? Let me get on my YouTube channel and get this guy the hell out of here. Because if you're trying to self-promote yourself in my stream, you got something wrong. You're doing it all wrong, my friend. You ain't doing it right. So let's get this guy up out of here. Let's get Mr. Magoo packing. Let's send this guy at the stream. Adios, amigo. Hide user. Yep. We're going to remove. And we're going to report you for misinformation. You got some fake news going on over there, buddy. Get packing. Get out of here. Rest of season trade talk. Listen, ask any question you want. Ask me what color I think the sky is. I don't even care at this point. I'm on stream. You guys got me here for as long as the games start to kick off, so I'm happy to answer any questions. What do we do with Vidal rest of season, and who do we target? Potentially pair him up for a tier up. I think at this point, you may have missed the boat to trade up for Kamani Vidal. If you're an Amari and Hampton fantasy owner, or if you're somebody that keeps up with this injury news, you're probably aware of the fact that next week is their bye week for the Chargers, and Amari and Hampton, more likely than not, we'll say 75-80%, is probably going to play week 13. If you're trying to package him away for a trade, I think you missed the boat. But if you didn't miss the boat, I would look to see who's out there, who's trying to give you a potential upgrade at wide receiver, what's available. That's kind of what it comes down to, because, of course, we want to trade and get the best things at all times, but if you're not getting much offers out there, if you don't have a player or a name that you can target, I don't know how much of this advice I can give, but I can say try to pair him up with a wide receiver on your team to upgrade a wide receiver. If you want to upgrade a running back, you may have to give up one of your starting wide receivers and a Kamani Vidal to get that tier up. It all depends on who we're targeting at the end of the day, because we can only give out and get back the same value we get at the end of the day, or try to upgrade for better. People are going to be aware. People are going to know that Amari and Hampton's on his way back. It may be tough to trade him at this point, but hey, shoot your shot. See what they say. Let's check for any fantasy football info. It's funny. I didn't even know I needed moderators. I got somebody throwing links to a stream. That's crazy. That's how you know you made it, guys. I'm playing. No real injury updates that I see as of right now. Not seeing anything out of the ordinary. It looks like everything is kind of on pace here. Still waiting to hear back on, for sure, Bam Knight, Devontae Adams, Brian Thomas. But it sounds like Brian Thomas isn't going to play. Drake London, we're still waiting for confirmation, but it sounds like Drake London will play. Ricky Pearsall is trending on Twitter. Let's go check that out. What is going on? It is good to know that when Ricky Pearsall plays and is healthy, the guy is a beast. But do we really want to play a guy his first game back from injury? It's scary. But it's the Cardinals. He practiced all week. He's off the injury report, not even carrying a questionable tag. I think Ricky Pearsall has to be thrown into your lineups as much as possible. That's truly how I feel. We need to be getting that in our lineups. Let's just call it what it is. Dallas Goedert or Jake Ferguson? This is a great question. Dallas Goedert or Jake Ferguson? Let's take a look. The Raiders give up the 7th least fantasy points to tight ends. I think we go Dallas Goedert here. I think this is a situation where Dallas Goedert got to be played. That's just how that's going to go. Let's see. Going back to Twitter. Trying to keep you guys as updated as possible. You know how I do. The Bengals will be without one more wide receiver. Jermaine Burton is going to be out for this game. The Bills signed McCole Hardman and Gabe Davis. So that's going to be interesting. We got some vets playing. They're saying, Keon Coleman, I'm sorry, you are just not enough. Mike Garafolo, this was tweeted by Underdog an hour ago. The Giants are hopeful that Jackson Dart will return in Week 12. So this is just a one-shot, one-spot start game for Jameis Winston. I think he's going to know that if he wants it, he's going to have to ball out. And I think we're looking at a situation where he's going to have to ball out. And he will ball out. Brock Purdy or Joe Flacco? Could ask as many questions as you want, Ryan. I'm here until 9:30. I'm going to hop off when kickoff starts. Maybe we'll come back before the 1 o'clock games. I don't know. Kind of depends on the mood. But let's see. Joe Flacco or Brock Purdy? Vibes are telling me go with Joe Flacco. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these. The rankings, the apps, they're going to lean towards Brock Purdy over Joe Flacco. Playing in Arizona, I would play Brock Purdy. Joe Flacco may get hit with the weather. There is some serious winds in the Northeast today. Definitely weather is a factor in all of these games. But when you're in Arizona, I don't think the weather is too much of a factor. So I like Brock Purdy if we're going to go safe. Shooting for the moon, Joe Flacco. But these are great questions, Ryan. If you have any more questions, feel free to fire them away. Do not be shy. I'm here for the next half hour. Again, up here, we got my bets. Gamble responsibly. But regardless, this is what I think is going to happen in this game. Tua for 2 tutties. Jalen Waddle over 70 yards. And Achane anytime. That's what I like this week. It's plus 260. That's a nice little lay to start your Sunday morning, am I right? Next week's buys, kill me at running back. I'll have Henderson as my RB1. Just tried to hit the waiver early and grabbed Corum. How do you feel about starting Corum against Tampa Bay, pending those starters go down? Eesh. Let's think about this. We have a situation where we really need a guy, right? And we're looking to grab Blake Corum. I don't love that. I'm going to be honest. But I know you don't have many options, Pierce. I understand you got hit with the Week 12 bye. It is what it is. I'm going to say do what you can to try and maybe go out there and grab a Brashard Smith. I think Brashard Smith or Bashal Tutin maybe a little bit of safer. Maybe you can't get Bashal Tutin at this point. But I think Brashard Smith may just end up taking over the backfield over Kareem Hunt at some point this year. Maybe that'll be next week. Who knows? Who are the Chiefs playing next week? Because this is important to know. Let me take a look. The Chiefs are playing Indianapolis next week. It's not a great matchup, not a bad matchup. I would say maybe keep an eye on Brashard Smith. Maybe you can get away with playing him. I missed a lot of questions. I'm sorry, guys. Gadsden or RJ Harvey for my flex. I feel like RJ Harvey. I'm in PPR. I feel like Gadsden. I feel like RJ Harvey is a tough start this week. Yes, he's going to have the volume. He's going to have the opportunity. But this game could go south for the Broncos. Sure, the Broncos can do Bronco-like things and make magic happen in the fourth quarter. But that's a lot to ask for. That's a risky game to play. Gadsden, Gadsden, he's going to be slated for 5 targets. You know he's going to get passes over the middle of the field. You know he's kind of the second in command now to Ladd McConkey in this offense. I like Gadsden slightly over RJ Harvey. I'm starting RJ Harvey, so if you start him, I'm with you. But I don't want to sound like I'm being a hypocrite. My options are RJ Harvey or Jacoby Myers. So I like RJ Harvey better than Jacoby Myers this week. Next, we already covered next week's buys are going to kill you. You have HN, Vidal, and Harvey. Yeah, that's tough. Judkins or Kareem Hunt? I think you got to go Judkins. You got to go Judkins. Baltimore gives up the 6th most fantasy points allowed to running backs. I think you got to go Juddy here. Kareem Hunt's probably in a game script that he's going to get a touchdown. But we were just talking about how I like Brashard Smith to eventually take over this backfield. Maybe it won't be this week. But you're going to see a bunch of guys run the ball for the Chiefs this week. Remember, we haven't seen the Chiefs play in a little while. But the last game they played, Clyde Edwards-Helaire carried the football for them. So what does that tell you? They're looking for anybody to step up in this room. That means they don't feel that great about Kareem Hunt. Yeah, they give him the touches, but they're looking for somebody else to break out in this offense. I like Juddy over Kareem Hunt, but it's a great question. Thank you, Not a Coyote, for stopping by and asking your fantasy football questions. I hope this helps somebody out. Maybe somebody else has the same situation. I missed somebody ask Bill or Tez Johnson. Play Tez Johnson. I don't feel great about starting anybody on the Washington Commanders, let alone the fact that Bill is very touchdown dependent, very dependent on his football team getting down into the red zone and giving him those short touchdowns. You're probably not going to see that today. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I think it's a little too risky. Tez Johnson, you know he's going to get his targets. You know he's going to get his receptions. I like where that's headed. Caleb or Stafford? So I think somebody else has asked this question before too. Definitely Matthew Stafford. Full PPR, would you start Woody over Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, or Dowdle? Oof. No, I wouldn't. Even if it's full PPR, yeah, there's a lot of upside for Woody Marks. But Chase Brown is slotted for a lot of opportunity and volume today. Rico Dowdle is a dog. We're not taking him out of our lineups. That would be ridiculous. And Kyron Williams, you know he's going to get the volume. And Kyron Williams is probably going to be in a game script that allows LA to run the ball, sit on the lead, and give you more opportunities in that sense. Woody Marks is a must-start, but Woody Marks is a must-start for me because of matchup. The Titans give up the 3rd most fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. That's why I have him up on this list here. However, I still like Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, and Dowdle over Woody Marks, but it's a great question. Sean Tucker or Kareem Hunt? Eesh. That's all I could say to that. I'm gonna give you my best. I'm gonna do my best to give you advice. Kareem Hunt slightly over Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker's in a better matchup. Sean Tucker's probably in more of a timeshare than we expect. I think the safer play is Kareem Hunt. 2 for flex. Hal Fannin, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, Michael Wilson. Well, one thing I will say, the Baltimore Ravens are not nice when it comes to giving up fantasy points to running backs. They give up tight ends. They give up the 9th fewest points to tight ends. So maybe we won't look at Hal Fannin this week. Vibes are telling me play Tyler Lockett over DJ Moore, but is that crazy advice to give you? Because vibes are telling me don't play DJ Moore. Vibes are telling me go ahead and play Tyler Lockett. This is a vet receiver. This is a guy that's going to play the Dallas Cowboys, so that's an upgrade. So we know Michael Wilson is the must start in that group. So I'm going to say Tyler Lockett slightly over DJ Moore. I don't feel great about telling you that, but vibes are telling me Tyler Lockett. Vibes are telling me get whatever you can in that Cowboys-Raiders game because you know the Cowboys give up so many fantasy points to opposing players. Oh yeah. You're definitely gonna be good once Amarian Hampton and Trey Benson come back. I'll tell you that much. That's a great spot to be in, a great position to be in. You should be chilling. Blake Wright with Laporta down. What are some low-end waiver wire options you would take over Loveland? Let's see who I prefer over Loveland this week. Is this a this week question or a next week question? Because that kind of impacts how I'm going to answer it. Kyle Pitts is a great start. Eber, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for stopping by as always. You are the man. You have been supporting me since day one. You're a big proponent of why we keep making videos on this channel. We'd love to have you back for our yearly, seasonal award video like we did last year. That was a ton of fun. So, Eber, you're more than welcome to come back. This is my live proposal to you. We'd love to have you back if you want to come back. Next week, okay. Let's take care of some of the questions for this week first, and I'll definitely get back to you, Pierce. Michael Wilson or Sutton PPR, and I went against Henderson. Start Michael Wilson. I don't have a cliche shoot for the moon, play Sutton, or be safe and play Michael Wilson. Just play Michael Wilson. That's probably your best bet. Full PPR, my running backs are Henry, Chase Brown, Warren, Algier, Spears, Davis, Isaiah Davis, Singletary, Flowers, Pearsall, Harrison, Parker, Iron Man. If you're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., you're not playing him. If you're talking about playing, I think you got to play Flowers and Pearsall. I think you have to play Henry, Chase Brown, Tyler Warren, those three. And yeah, so those are your two wide receivers. You got two running backs and a flex there, Mike. I think you're good with Derrick Henry, Chase Brown, Jaylen Warren, and then play Flowers and Pearsall. I think that's the move. You have Gadsden on a bye. So let's see. Let's see what we could do about that. Would you trade Spears for Shakir? That's a great question. That's actually a great question. If you have Tyjae Spears, you're probably... I feel like it may be easier for you to get a guy off the waiver wire like a Parker Washington and keep him in your lineup as your flex than to trade away a Spears for Shakir. We don't know how long Dalton Kincaid is going to be out for. If this was something like he went on IR, we could boost his value significantly. If you're looking to make this trade because you need to win this week, I guess you can trade Spears for Shakir, banking your chips on this 1 week. Otherwise, I think Tyjae Spears is probably a better roster add. I think he's going to eventually take over the job from Tony Pollard. I would just sit tight with Spears for now. With the weather, would you go Purdy, Flacco, Brissett, or Purdy, or McCarthy? Okay. I think your best bet is to go Brock Purdy. If not, I would consider J.J. McCarthy. I would honestly say J.J. McCarthy is like right outside the top 10. I would rank them Purdy, J.J., Flacco. That's how I go. Which sounds crazy because we all know Joe Flacco is an absolute gunslinger. He's super fantasy friendly for our teams. But I still would rank them Purdy, JJ, Flacco. And we're probably not even considering Brissett. Let's get back to Pierce because I've had him on hold for quite a while about who he's going to play at tight end next week. So let me just go through. Let me check out the schedule, see what we like. Harold Fannin does not have a good matchup next week. Houston's not a great matchup for the Bills. Colson Loveland next week. Let's just take a look at what he's got going on. I think Colson Loveland is the best situation. The Pittsburgh Steelers give up, who he's playing next week, the Pittsburgh Steelers give up the fourth most fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. We've seen a ton of tight ends actually run wild on this defense. So with all of those things considered, I like Colson Loveland, assuming there's no injuries or any changes to that. I think you just stick it out with Colson Loveland. I think that's your best move. Pearsall or Worthy? Pearsall. Projected to lose? Pearsall. When Pearsall is healthy, he is phenomenal. When the Chiefs have all of their players when they have all of their players healthy and in, not out, Worthy kind of gets pushed to the side. Worthy is a touchdown or bust kind of play. I like Ricky Pearsall for sure. But thank you, Eli, for your question. I truly appreciate you stopping by, asking your fantasy questions. And if you guys have any more fantasy football questions, keep them coming. Do not stop. Should have bought a second energy drink. That's probably my biggest regret of the stream. Otherwise, I'm feeling great. Had a lot of new people, a lot of friendly faces, familiar faces, some new faces. Grateful for everybody that jumped in the stream, asked their fantasy football questions. Yeah, of course, Eli, anytime. Glad to help out. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'm here till kickoff. Let's check. I haven't checked Twitter in a while for any inactive news, active news. We should be getting word eventually on whether Brian Thomas Jr. is officially out. It still seems like Brian Thomas Jr. is the only guy out of that group that is not going to play. Drake London, Devontae Adams, Quentin Johnston, Calvin Ridley, and Bam Knight are all expected to play. And Brian Thomas Jr. is not expected to play. No, listen, you can ask about next week. If we don't have anybody asking any other questions, I get it. We have to focus on what are we going to do each week. We got to worry about winning out, right? We have to survive, like you said. So if you have any questions for next week, I'd love to help you. It's just obviously I'm not looking at in front of me like a ranking sheet that's going to project, okay, let's get this bum out of here. Hold on, let's boot this bum out of here. Let me refresh. I don't know why it's not popping up on my live stream feed, but we got some kind of spam going on. We're going to just put this user in timeout for 24 hours. We're going to hide the user on this channel. We're just going to say see you later because you're a bot. Troy Franklin, DeAndre Swift, Michael Wilson, Imari Demercado, pick 2 flex. Get him out of here. Troy Franklin, DeAndre Swift, Michael Wilson, Imari Demercado. We're probably not considering Imari Demercado if Bam Knight is going to play at all. Troy Franklin, he is a sit. I think we have to go DeAndre Swift, Michael Wilson. Thank you for your question, Jonathan. Really appreciate that. I don't know what it is, Pierce. I'm not some big tuber. I ain't got a lot of subscribers. I don't even got a lot of people watching right now. The fact that we got people flooding my stream with spam, that's crazy. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing spamming illegal streams in my chat? What are we doing with that? That is some nonsense. Oh, Eli asked a question. I'm sorry. Let me get back to that, and I'll get back to you, Piers. Would you consider dropping DJ Moore for Luther Bird and kind of chasing upside or hold on to Moore? I have JSN, Marv, Brian Thomas Jr., Ricky, Dobbs, Franklin. So I've got some wide receivers already. I think you're better off holding on to DJ Moore. If something were to happen to one of the Chicago Bears pass catchers, obviously I'm not wishing for that at all. You're way better off playing a DJ Moore than a Luther Burden in that situation. I think it would be more dangerous to let somebody that needs a wide receiver pick up a DJ Moore versus picking up a Luther Burden. At this point, this is probably not somebody you're going to be starting because you have JSN, Brian Thomas Jr., Ricky Pearsall, Romeo Dobbs, Troy Franklin. So those guys are going to be starting probably most weeks over DJ Moore. Maybe this week. This week, I'd probably say slightly DJ Moore over Troy Franklin. Don't feel great about that, but I would say slightly over because you can't play Marv, you can't play Brian Thomas Jr. this week. But JSN, Ricky Pearsall, Romeo Dobbs, those are going to be the three you'd start over him. I think you're good with just keeping DJ Moore. Zay Flowers versus Pickens rest of season. Zay Flowers over Pickens. I mean, not Pickens. You didn't say Pickens. Oh, my goodness. Get him out of here. Get them out of here. Get them out of here. This user's going in time out. You're out of here. Shoo. Get out of here. Pickens or Zay Flowers? I don't really think there's going to be much of a difference in terms of production for these two. Do we want Zay Flowers in Cleveland, or do we want... This is a little bit of a cop-out answer, Pierce. I'm going to say Pickens over... Oh, no. It's the rest of season. I'm sorry. Not this week. Let me check. I'm sorry. I was going to answer the wrong question for you. I think Zay Flowers, rest of season, slightly. But I think these are both stud wide receivers. I think these are both guys. Got to put them in your lineups. Part of me believes that Zay slightly over Pickens rest of season with CeeDee Lamb. But these are both guys that are like right outside that wide receiver 1 category. Like just right outside. Get these bots out of here. Tua or Aaron Rodgers? I like this question. I like this question a lot. Tua or Aaron Rodgers? Let's go Aaron Rodgers. He was the thumbnail of my video. If you didn't watch that, go check that out before the week even starts. Go check out that video, preferably after I'm done streaming. And yeah, go with A-Rod. Which one should I sit? London, Waddle, or Warren? I'm assuming Tyler Warren. I'm assuming because we got two guys, Jalen Warren and Tyler Warren. Those are both guys with the last name Warren. So it doesn't help me out too much, Alex. But what I do know is, in case we're talking about Jalen Warren, right? Jalen Warren would be somebody you got to start no matter what, going up against the best running back matchup. Drake London is balling out of his mind, one of the top receivers. But the matchup says otherwise. I think if you had to play two of them, Jalen Warren, if it's Jalen Warren, and Jalen Waddle, because I know that that's Jalen Waddle, would be your starters, and I think you would have to sit London, unfortunately. But if we're talking Tyler Warren, I think you have to play London and sit Tyler Warren. I think that is the move. Why do we think Troy Franklin is going to have a bad week? This is a great question. It's not why do I think Troy Franklin is going to have a bad week. I know Troy Franklin's going to have a bad week. I know for a fact he's going to have a bad week. And why do I know he's going to have a bad week? Because this guy is as boom or bust as it comes. He is cut from the cloth of boom or bust. A guy that you can check this channel. You can go back and check any of my videos you want. One of my biggest videos this year was you got to be adding Troy Franklin onto your roster. And I've been a big proponent in the offseason of saying this guy is making huge steps in the right direction. This guy is playing great. But here's what we know. I'm going to go back and I'm going to find every time Troy Franklin on his schedule played a defense, because he's done it 3 times this year so far, top 5 in least amount of points allowed to the wide receiver position. He played the LA Chargers, he played the Philadelphia Eagles, and he played the Houston Texans. And I'm going to read you his stats from these games. When he played the LA Chargers, he had 2 catches for 8 yards. When he played the Philadelphia Eagles, he had 3 catches for 35 yards. He saw 4 and 5 targets in those games. And when he played the Houston Texans, he saw 10 targets for 4 catches and 27 yards. And in none of these games did he score a touchdown. So what does that tell you? Troy Franklin is touchdown or bust. Is this a game today where Troy Franklin is guaranteed to score a touchdown against a defense that is third fewest in fantasy points allowed to the wide receivers? I would probably assume no. I would assume he's probably not going to be a guy that you can play in this matchup. But let's talk about when Troy Franklin doesn't play somebody that's top 5 in fewest fantasy points allowed. The Tennessee Titans, 4 for 44. Not a terrible day. We'll take it. The Indianapolis Colts, they give up the 6th most fantasy points allowed to the wide receivers. 8 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown. And he even took a handoff for 11 yards. Okay. The Cincinnati Bengals, 4 catches for 55 yards. Are you seeing the pattern? Because I see a guy in... Will Sutton also have a bad week? I do think Sutton will also have a bad week. I don't think that... Will anybody be good on the Broncos? I honestly don't think so. But I think if there's anybody you have to play, it would be Courtland Sutton. This is a guy that they target in the red zone. Even when he doesn't get a lot of volume and opportunities, he doesn't get more targets than Troy Franklin on most games, which is unfortunate. But in the red zone, he's getting the touchdowns. He's getting the targets down there. He is their touchdown guy. So I believe if you're going to play anybody, it's Courtland Sutton. I don't feel good about playing R.J. Harvey, and I don't feel good about playing Troy Franklin either. And, I don't want to sound like I know everything, but Troy Franklin has literally laid out the blueprint and the plan for only start me in matchups that benefit me. And this is a matchup that does not benefit Troy Franklin. I love Troy Franklin. I have him in plenty of leagues. I'm just concerned about when he goes up against a tough matchup. That is an issue. Would I play Worthy over Franklin then? That's a tough call. That is a tough call. Worthy or Franklin? Worthy or Franklin? I'm gonna say Franklin over Worthy. This is, a unique situation where would we rather take the guy who's gonna have more targets in a bad matchup or play a guy who also doesn't have a good matchup? Because the Broncos give up the second fewest points allowed to opposing wide receivers. Do we want that guy who's not going to get as many targets as Troy Franklin, or do we play Troy Franklin? I think you kind of have to just roll the dice and play Troy Franklin. Broncos fan, let's go. My Bo Nix jersey is on the way. It's coming in the mail. I am a huge Bo Nix fan. I love Bo Nix. That is my guy. So I love that you're a Broncos fan. But yeah, we're not starting a Bronco this week. 12-man PPR redraft. Purdy, CMC, Hendy, I like that. Chase Brown, Roma Dunze, Lad McConkey, Pearsall, Tet, Ferguson. Are you trading Odunze and Henderson for Waddle and Harvey? So, here's what we know about Roma Dunze, right? Started off at this unbelievable rate, unsustainable, looked like a wide receiver one, looked like this year's Jackson Smith-Njigba, right? It looked like you drafted this guy 7th, 8th round, whatever, and he ends up being a top 10 wide receiver. It hasn't been that way all year. It has not been. But you know what? To get Waddle, a wide receiver one, and R.J. Harvey back for Henderson, kind of just depends on, would you rather Harvey over Henderson, right? Henderson looks like a guy that people are going to run away with. I had this conversation yesterday. I think, right, everyone's so hyped on TreVeyon Henderson right now. I think R.J. Harvey rest of season might be better than TreVeyon Henderson. I don't know if we're ready for that conversation, though, because we haven't seen R.J. Harvey take over as the starting running back yet. We're going to see it against a bad matchup this week, but I low-key think that Harvey rest of season over Henderson, and I think Waddle over Odunze is a better matchup. I mean, better rest of the season. So I think I would consider that. I think I would take Waddle and Harvey. You're upgrading at wide receiver, and I think at the lowest, it's a net even between Hendy and Harvey. They're both starting running backs. They're both going to be really good for you. It's hard to want to trade TreVeyon Henderson away, but you're getting a better wide receiver back for it, so I kind of like that deal for you. Bam Knight or Hunt? Bam Knight or Hunt? I know there's a few other questions. I will definitely get to them, but let me just take care of this one first. Let's go Hunt over Bam Knight. That's my pick. Hunt over Bam Knight. Full PPR. Which wide receiver do I sit? London, obviously not. Devontae Higgins, have to sit one because my other stars are CMC, Achane, and Dowd. I guess you have to sit T. Higgins. Here's my thing. You already came into it with the obviously not Drake London, but obviously Drake London has to fall back down to earth at some point, right? Maybe it's not this week, but I don't think we could expect him to just run away and be wide receiver 1 overall the entire rest of the season. I mean, I was banging on the table for Drake London to be drafted as a top 10 wide receiver this year. However, T. Higgins has the matchup, but if you're already going into it with you're not sitting London and you're not open to that idea, I think you have to sit T. Higgins. If you're open to swinging for the fences, you need a big win. I would consider T. Higgins even though the weather is bad, but I get it. You don't want to sit Drake London. I don't think it's smart to do that either. Get these bots out of here, man. What are we doing? Get out of here. You're in timeout. You're in timeout. You're in timeout. You are not welcome here, bot. Tracy or Kareem Hunt? Tracy or Kareem Hunt? Tracy or Hunt? I think you got to go Tyrone Tracy. Neither matchup is great. I still feel like I feel better about Tyrone Tracy. What up, Dylan? I'm sorry it took a while to get to you. I had a lot of bots in here. I couldn't see your question, but you got one flex. Tyrone Tracy versus Green Bay, Algier versus Carolina, and Worthy versus Denver. I think playing Algier is just you're hoping that he steals touchdowns. Again, that's not an ideal strategy. Tyrone Tracy should have some good volume in this game. Maybe they win the game. Who knows? I like Tyrone Tracy. I'm doing good, Austin. Thanks for asking. How about you, my friend? We got a fantasy football question that I would love to answer. Starts at Harold Fannin or Jakrowski Merritt. You only got 2 minutes for me to answer this. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. We're not going to play Bill. Start Harold Fannin. Trace it to me. Yeah, I agree with you, Pierce. I think you got it. I think you got some good knowledge. You're spreading the knowledge to the Outlier militia. I appreciate that very much. I agree with you. Let's check. Do we have any inactives that I should know about? We got 2 minutes to kick off. 2 minutes to kick off. I'm excited. I don't see anything noteworthy at the moment. Ian Rappaport tweeted 9 minutes ago, Joe Burrow is likely back on the field Thanksgiving or the following week. Trey Hendrickson plans to put off potential core muscle surgery to be back for the stretch run. Wow. So, Trey Hendrickson wants to play this year. This Bengals team, they know what it's like to miss the playoffs. They're not trying to miss the playoffs again. I respect that. I really do. Bill has been so bad. We talked about it a little while ago, Austin. Unfortunately, Bill is a player that is dependent on, is he going to get the touchdown? Is he going to get that short yardage touchdown? We know that he is not a pass-catching back. We know he's not going to get a lot of opportunities if they're not winning this game. I think the Dolphins are going to win this game. These clues and reading the tea leaves tell me that you're probably not going to get a good game from Bill. Again, we talked about how earlier as well, this is a tough matchup for Harold Fannin Jr. and David Njoku, as the Baltimore defense is very stout to the tight end position. But I still think you have to play the upside because in PPR, you know Bill isn't catching passes, right? So you kind of have to go Harold Fannin Jr. there. But I wish you good luck with that. Of course, Pierce. Thank you so much. I will definitely be back next week if you want a little roundup. We're going to have bye week hell, so there's going to be a lot of who do we start, who do we sit, and some crazy names are going to be on the screen for Must Start because there's a lot of teams on a bye next week, and I got to get you guys locked and loaded for that. But thank you again for stopping by. It's 9:30. I did want to get off at this time, but if any of you do have any Start City Fantasy Football questions, please ask now. Now is the time to do so. I'd love to help everybody out. If not, I'm probably just going to go kick back on the couch, watch some football, enjoy my day, and try to make some waiver wire content. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be watching every game. I'm going to be noticing. I'm going to be keen on the details, the P's and the Q's. I've told you guys before to go out and grab Colson Loveland before his emergence game. I kind of have a thing for this stuff. So that's why I make the videos. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on everyone around the league. We're going to come up with the best plan to hit the waiver wire. So be on the lookout for that video during the week. If you guys stuck around and watched this entire live stream, thank you guys so much. I truly appreciate it. Outlier Militia, can't do it without you guys. But yeah, seems like nobody else has any start-sit questions, so I'm probably going to wrap it up now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to do this again next week. This was great. I had so much fun with all of you. Thanks for dropping your questions. I hope everybody that liked this stream and everyone that watched this stream, participated in it, gets a fat W this week in fantasy football. And hopefully I do as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get this bot out of here one more time for the road, because I can't stand when these bots flood my chat. You're not welcome here. I know that's mean, but I mean it. You're not welcome here, you little bot. Did Davante Adams sign that for you? So, he did not sign that for me necessarily. I have a buddy. You can go check out his Instagram. It's Elite Collectibles SI on Instagram. No underscore, anything like that. He is a very avid sports card collector, does baseball card openings and all that good stuff. Very keen on the sports cards. But before sports cards, had a nice memorabilia collection. Didn't really have a use for his Davante Adams jersey. And I was like, I would love to add that to the backdrop, to the studio. Give this kind of backdrop some personality and some flair. So I ended up purchasing off of him. He is a great guy. Make sure you go follow Elite Collectibles SI, or at least just check them out. A great friend of mine. Wanted to help out the channel and add some, nice stuff to the studio. Gave me a great deal on it. It wasn't free. This ain't no sponsorship. It's just a friend helping out a friend, and I'd love if you could help out my friend as well. He didn't sign that for me, but I am working on getting other jerseys up behind me that are signed. One that I was looking at was Amari in Hampton, but as soon as I went to go purchase it, that was week 5 and he got injured. So I was like, that's some bad mojo. I don't really want to mess with that. Yeah, so I'm going to be looking to get more jerseys. I'm just a little small creator right now, but eventually I will be able to cycle out what jerseys I put behind me. I think that'll be fun. Maybe we'll have a video talking about like some running backs, and I'll have like a LT jersey or something back there. That's just kind of like my hopes and plans. Maybe I throw a Bo Nix jersey back there. I love Bo Nix. People are hating on him for no reason. Maybe I could get his autograph for the cheap. You know what I'm saying? Metcalf or Parker Washington? Let's do one more for the road because I love you guys. Parker Washington or DK Metcalf? DK Metcalf. You got to go DK Metcalf. That's an easy one. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. I truly appreciate it. If you like fantasy football, make sure you subscribe. You never know. Maybe you find another video useful on this channel. I try to go live every single week. I haven't been live the last few weeks. I work some weekends, just to be transparent about that. So some weekends I'm not going to be able to sit in front of the camera and do these videos. But when I do get a chance to do these videos, I do my best to try to make a live stream for you guys, start sitting, all that good stuff. But yeah, subscribe. Make sure you don't miss out the next time I drop a video. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck to everybody in your fantasy football weeks. And I'm going to sign